My name is Emelia Cole. I am a graduate process engineer at Jacobs Engineering. So a typical day at work for me at Jacobs would be working with a multidisciplinary team on a project for a client where we're trying to produce a drug, and typically I tend to work with the process team and I work on technical drawings, and I will ask questions about what needs changing on them according to a meeting with the client, for example, or just a general new development that we kind of need to change, and I will change that. It will go through a checking procedure and we'll issue that out. I also assist with the safety side of things, so we'll look at a process, look at the risks. So we'll do a hazard, which is a hazard identification, and we'll look at that. And then I also keep track of equipment in the process. So that's always changing because you might need to add things, take away things that you no longer need. And each of these equipment has power requirements, different dimensions, and there's so many parts of the process. So you really need to coordinate with all of the people on the team and just make sure that everything's on track. So again, that's something else that I do in my day-to-day. I would say the main skills to be successful in this kind of job would be critical thinking and very good time management, because you've got a lot of sometimes small tasks, sometimes big tasks, and it's important to learn to prioritise. You can do like training on prioritisation. I found like training courses which have really helped me with that. And a lot of the time you'll be asked to do something and you have to dedicate a bit of time to it, but then there might be a small task that you know you can do quickly for someone that needs it urgently, so you kind of have to make sure you can arrange your time accordingly. And like I said, you should be able to critically think about a problem, as well as be able to take on criticism, because sometimes you will think you've produced something and it's fine, and then you'll get about 20 comments on it and you think, oh no, but it's okay, because at the end of the day you're learning, and it's important to try, get it wrong, and then, you know, take on the criticism and maybe make sure you get that part right the next time, I'd say. When I was at sixth form, I studied maths, chemistry, physics and French, and that all of the maths, chemistry and physics, you kind of needed that for my degree. So I studied chemical engineering at the University of Nottingham back in the UK, and I did a placement year in water treatment, and that kind of, during that time we were encouraged to watch a lot of like webinars and things like that. So I watched a webinar for iChemie, and the person presenting at it was someone that worked at Jacobs, and they had a career in pharmaceuticals, and I'd always wanted to do pharmaceuticals from the day I started the degree, but in the UK it's kind of less specified towards that, whereas in Ireland it is a lot more. And so I added that person on LinkedIn. In my final year of university, they said they were hiring for graduates, and so I got in contact with them, had an interview, and then got the job at Jacobs. So it was a bit of a, you're moving to Dublin, but it was, yeah, quite exciting because I actually got to do pharmaceuticals, which is what I really wanted to do. So. I would say it depends obviously what you're studying. So if you are studying chemical engineering and it is at a UK university, sometimes they're not so tailored towards that. So, but again, it doesn't matter because it's a lot of generic skills like drawings and calculations and safety that you can apply to any process, and you can develop the pharmaceutical knowledge as you're learning, as you're working. I would also say a really important thing to do at university is to ask questions, and also ask your lecturers and peers and potential alumni how they got into their roles, because that's how I managed to kind of, you know, find a place to move to and all that kind of thing, because you learn a lot from them and their past experience. And also I think just as a general rule, asking questions is really good, because I used to have lectures of about 100 people, so asking a question in front of all those people was actually quite daunting. So sometimes you'd have to maybe speak to a lecturer at the end to ask a question, but actually I found now being at work in meetings, you know, you have a question, you're like, oh, I'll save it till the end, but actually if you just ask it in the meeting, probably about 5 other people wanted to know the answer to that question, so you're helping other people at the end of the day. So it's really good to have the confidence to ask the question, but sometimes it's okay if you don't, but it will benefit you if you develop that. It's something I'm still working on, but I think it's important to do, I would say. So in terms of hybrid working, Jacobs encourage graduates to be in work around 3 days a week. I personally, after having worked during the pandemic on a placement year and being at home all the time, I personally prefer going in just because it's quite nice. I'm quite a social person, so I quite like to be around people. So I go in 4 days a week and then work from home 1 day a week. Occasionally it might change, depending on the weather or something like that. You know, if I've got a weather warning, I might not want to drive in. But hybrid working is very advantageous in terms of the fact that if you have got something you need to quickly do after work, if you're starting from home, you can. It's a lot more flexible, and I would just say though that for a graduate, it's very beneficial to be at work with other engineers around you, because if you have a question, you can literally just turn to someone, tap them on the shoulder and be like, hi, can I ask you a question? So for a graduate, it's beneficial to be in the office, but I would definitely say as I've gotten busier, that extra hour in the morning that you'd save on travelling is so important, because you might want to do like a meeting, or you've got something you really just want to focus on, and while everyone else is getting to work, you've got that time to just sit and work on it. So I would say the busier I get, the more I appreciate hybrid working. So yeah. What do I love most about my job? I would say just the general opportunities I've been offered at Jacobs, and just the colleagues and everyone that I work with. I've had the opportunity to travel to Denmark and meet people there, and even an experience like that, you learn so much about how other teams work, different work cultures in different countries, things like that, and all of that kind of thing you can take back with you and use it to your advantage. And I think as well, just being back in Dublin and experiencing all of the different aspects of the company. So they have committees that like to encourage different behaviours. So I'm part of a safety committee, and we get to do a lot of wellbeing events. So things like that, it makes you feel very valued as an employee. And I go into work each day not really knowing exactly what I'm going to be doing. Some days I do know, and I'll prepare myself and make sure I've got everything sorted for that, but sometimes you don't know if you're going to get a call from someone and be like, oh, hi, can you help me with this? And you're like, oh, yeah, I will. My favourite thing to do is calcs, so sometimes when someone rings me and says, oh, can you help me with this, I get really excited. So, but yeah, so I would say the opportunities, the people you get to work with, everyone's so lovely, and again, just the parts of the project that I enjoy the most. So yeah, lots of things.